If you're looking to start a business in laser engraving, one of the #1 questions you're probably asking yourself is what machine makes sense to get started that's going to cover everything I probably need without spending $5 grand. With that question in mind, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the new WeCreat Lumos laser, putting it through its paces, testing a ton of real-life laser engraved items that you can do and that actually sell, while keeping in mind the mentality of if one machine could be used for a business, is the Lumos it? Let's find out. If you're new here, I run my own business, a mixture of 3D printed items and laser engraved goods across a couple of stores, online and in person. So in today's video, I'm going to be putting the WeCreat Lumos to the test from the position of a business owner, someone who's been doing laser engraving for many years, and with the mindset of could this be the machine that you could have, maybe use your first machine, to run everything within a conceivable realm of possibilities while staying under that $5,000 budget. Let's find out. So the Lumos is a portable dual laser engraver designed for creators, side hustlers, and small businesses. What makes it different is that it combines 2 lasers in one machine. A 10-watt blue light diode for wood, leather, plastics, and similar materials, and then a 3-watt infrared laser for metal engraving. So instead of needing multiple machines, this one system can handle 300 or more materials. Pretty much anything you can throw at a laser, the Lumos will engrave. It's also fully enclosed, which makes it a lot more practical if you're working in a shop, at a craft booth to protect your customers from the object, or even a home office, which is where you will be seeing all of the B-roll footage actually take place. Before diving into the features and tech specs of this laser, let me show you all of the projects I actually ran on this machine. I tested the Lumos on tumblers and canned koozies, Slate coasters, titanium and stainless steel for color engraving, wood pencils, bamboo pens, aluminum pens, anodized business cards, copper coins, military dog tags, a baseball, leatherette patches and coasters, 3D printed keychains, bottle opener keychains, and even a full-size license plate tag. So this video and the projects I'm talking about are not theoretical. I really put them to the test with the Lumos to see if it is a yes or a no on capabilities and feasibility for business products. The Lumos is a Galvo laser, which means that the machine itself is not moving around to do the engraving. It uses high-speed motors with mirrors to reflect the laser across your subject. This means it is a very fast and precise form of technology. It uses a Galvo system called beam focus technology, which allows it to engrave up to 3 times faster than comparable machines, gives you deeper engravings than typical lower power infrared lasers, and extremely fine detail down to around 0.00199 millimeters of precision. Yes, I totally read that off the screen to quote it to you because that's a ridiculously small amount of precision. All of those things are especially noticeable with materials such as dog tags, coins, detailed logos, or anything where quality and durability matter. Now let's talk about a really cool feature, and that is the MOPA style color engraving you can get on metal with the Lumos laser. Normally you would need a very high-end MOPA fiber laser setup for results like this, but Lumos has a really cool technology built in they call the beam focus system that allows you to achieve similar results. When you go to the color engraving, you start with what they call the color quick view test. The test is basically a focal distance test. You start with your machine focused on your object, run this test, and it moves it up and down and gives you results. Once you have that done, you pick the number from the best results or the color results you like to take to the next step. That becomes what WeCreat calls your color ID. Once you have your color ID, you then run a second test, and this one is a much more traditional speed power grid test that we are used to seeing. This will show you the actual range of colors you can produce on that material. So make sure you do the first test to find your focal distance and then the second test to find your colors. Another thing to note is you can choose different focal tests or color IDs and get different ranges of colors. So don't think you've only got one. It's definitely one of those things where you can experiment, move it around, and get some pretty cool results. Once you've run these two tests, you basically have a reference chart of colors to use with the machine on your material. However, there is a really big thing to note that possibly could be fixed in the future with a software update, but as the making of this video will either make or break your color engraving results. Whatever setup you have when you're doing your tests, you've got to replicate when you're running your jobs, specifically the height or whatever your object is sitting on, whether it be the plate, a jig, or a fixture, or something else. Whatever distance that is must be used again when actually doing the engravings. Now, if you're like me, you may think, no, I just focus the laser to start and then we go. Not the case. As you can see here, I'm doing some color engravings on a stainless steel business card, but I'm not getting good results. That was me thinking that I just focus the laser and keep on going. Once I had the idea to put it back the way I tested it, which was on the little purple lifting knife bed, I guess you could call it, then I got great results. I learned what was going on. Again, this may be fixed in a software update, which I hope that it is, but in the event you're running into this is a fix that worked for me, so give it a shot. That weird caveat aside from color engraving, as you can tell, you get some pretty good results. I had a piece of titanium 4-inch square that I got off of Amazon, and I ran the tests, and then I ran a parrot picture engraving test. It's a file that came with the machine. It worked pretty good. It actually worked really good. However, it took a very long time to run. Looking at the stainless steel business card, that actually ran a lot faster for me, but that was probably because my lines interval, my DPI, or my density setting, I guess you could call it, was not as intense as the parrot picture. There were also a whole lot fewer layers involved. If you're not familiar with color engraving on metal, it can take a long time. So my suggestion with you is absolutely do this. Consider it for business use because it can be very, very good. However, before you go down the road of pricing, make sure you run your products, calculate your machine time, and be sure you factor in profit. Because it's not as fast as just plain engraving. It does take time, but it does also give you a really cool result in the end too. All right, let's talk about WeCreate software, which is called Make It software, and whether it's good or bad, because a laser is one thing, but your software you use can either make or break your experience or give you or take away features that you need as a business owner to make the products to sell. I've used the WeCreate software over a couple of years across different machines and have seen it go from an okay beginner software to something that honestly has grown into a very usable, practical, and powerful software platform, which is really good. You're able to import your own designs, whether it be graphics or vectors, adjust them, change them, split into layers, group, Boolean subtract, all the manipulations you want is in the software. You're also able to use built-in templates that they have. There's some AI image generation tools in there as well. And honestly, throughout all of these projects, I never once came into a situation that I couldn't do with the software. And that's really cool. Another thing that really helps with laying out designs, especially on most of these where I'm doing single objects, is the built-in high-def camera in the Lumos laser. You're able to refresh and capture an image of your build plate or your object and easily place graphics. The placement of graphics is not exactly precise around the edges, which is extremely common with all machines that run cameras for placement and calibration, but it is very good otherwise as long as your object's in the middle. When I was running my larger batches of pencils or pens, I had to make sure I individually framed my graphics, especially on the outsides of the work area, to make sure they were centered. However, once I had that locked in, I then locked my graphic and used it as a template or layout guide, and it was no problem for repeating those jobs. Again, this is not something that WeCreate is guilty of alone. All laser manufacturers with cameras have this problem to some sort of an extent. WeCreate is just as good as the others in my book. In addition to the camera alignment, you can absolutely, and I would recommend this, still do regular laser framing, where you have your graphic, you click on the framing at the bottom right, and it does the outline on your object. This is my preferred way of aligning pretty much any graphics, especially if I'm doing multiples at once. The process is super easy, the software does it very well, and it's just as good as anywhere else or any other software you're gonna run into, and I give it 2 thumbs up still. I mean, it's framing, right? But it's there, and it's what I like to use. Now let's talk about rotary engraving, and specifically engraving tumblers, but I have to start off with an honest admission. This is the first time I've actually used a rotary in a laser to engrave tumblers. Yeah, of all the machines, of all the years, and of all the people, me, So from this perspective, this is my very first time, and the software made it good and easy for me. The setup on the Lumos is extremely straightforward. You have included hardware and positions and everything you need. I made a centering jig so I could easily put the rotary on and off, as well as a little support foot so I can move the rotary out for larger engraving on longer items or specifically placing it, but out of the box it still works really well. Setup is extremely straightforward. You drop the rotary in place, you connect it to the laser, and then you switch the engraving mode in the WeCreat Make It software to cylindrical mode. From there, the machine handles a full 360-degree engraving with rotating the object while engraving with no problems. I tested this on a stainless steel tumbler. This was actually a Yeti tumbler that we had in our house, and I was willing to risk it, but it turned out great. I also tested this on a powder-coated can koozie, and the results came out great as well. As far as alignment of my graphic on the objects, whether it be the tumbler or the koozie, what I did is centered my graphic in the software, but then I rotated the rotary to where the center point was right where I wanted it to be. After that, I clicked framing and it moved it, and I confirmed my layout at that point. What this allowed me to do was to make sure my graphic was centered on the drinkware object exactly where I wanted, and the results I got were perfect from what I expected. For larger items, or if you want to bulk batch out several items at once, there is a sliding table accessory or sliding table extension that you can get for this machine as well. This sliding table expands the working area so you can engrave longer objects, but you can also mount the rotary onto the sliding table to engrave long objects and also cylindrically engrave those long objects. This is shown on their website as engraving a baseball bat. I didn't have one around, so I didn't do one, but having tested the rotary and the sliding table, it 100% would work. And that's a pretty cool feature that I haven't seen on any other smaller form factor laser. The way the sliding table works is instead of moving the laser across a large space, the table moves the material under the laser. I used this for a coated aluminum license plate tag, and it handled the full size without any issues. This is useful for things such as license plates, long name plates, maybe address or post office markers, things like that, maybe some outdoor signage, or even batching multiple small items together. So let's talk about the overall form factor, size, and design of the Lumos. I like that it is a small laser. Throughout this video, you've seen it sit on my desk in my home office and engrave everything in this video. The only thing that kind of made it a little bit tight on space constraints is the sliding table, but even that still fit within the area. Since it's in my home office, I also absolutely love the fact that this is an enclosed laser, even though for video purposes, I ran it open more than anything. As long as it was hooked up to my fume extraction system, I didn't have problems with fumes, odors, smells, or anything at all. It has a little exhaust port in the back, it has a very powerful fan, and it works great. Now, of course, if I was doing this not for YouTube video, absolutely pull that shield down, protect your eyes, protect your nose, and protect anyone else around you, which this machine does. Being fully enclosed, it's really good from a safety standpoint. The relatively small size of the laser means it is super portable. If you want to take this to events at a craft show and engrave things on demand, you can do this no problem. It is not power hungry. It could easily be run by a portable power bank station and not have any issues running throughout the whole day. WeCreat also sells an air purification filter system that you can attach to the Lumos that is super portable, also for craft shows, indoor uses, very stylish as a white cube, and works really well. While I didn't use it for all of my projects because I kind of want to save it for special use cases, it works great. It absorbs all the fumes and it keeps your air you're breathing nice and clean. Alright guys, what I want to show you next is the handheld engraving option with this machine. So we'll go ahead and set that up. First thing we do is turn off the power, unplug USB and power cord, and then inside, right around this front, there is a knurled nut that you loosen, and once that is loosened, you then actually lift up and you take the entire laser head out of the machine. So now you have this portion, you set it aside because you're not going to use it, and you get this, which is their handheld protector cone. This magnetically attaches to the laser body, just like that, and is designed that it sits directly on top of your object, has perfect focus, and has a little fan built in and works. So what we're going to do next is plug in our USB cable for the fan. See it right there. Then we'll plug in our power cord, and then our USB-C cable. So those three right there are what you connect to the machine when you use it in handheld mode. So we just launched WeCreat Make It software. I'm gonna go up here to do a new project, but then I'm gonna open a project that I've previously designed for this. So once it gets here, let's skip the tutorials. Yes, I'm sure. You go up here, go to File and Import. That's how you actually open a file. And I'm gonna open up the one I designed a few minutes ago. Now we'll click to connect to the laser. Awesome. Make sure we're on handheld mode up here at the top right. Blue light setting because I'm going to be engraving in wood. And I'm going to click, drag, select all of my elements and make sure they're set to fill engrave, 100% power, 158 speed, 100 line density. Looks great. Now if I want to, I can tell it the material I'm using. And I'm going to be using pine. I don't have a pine option here, so I'm going to choose the birch plywood. It's about the closest thing density-wise. Then I could select my graphics, go down to the picture, and pick the one that I want to engrave. Now that this looks good, I'm going to click on Start at the top right. It's telling me that it's going to take 11 minutes and 49 seconds. And then when I click Send, it's going to do this pop-up and say, hold up, you're going to hold this thing still for 11 minutes and 49 seconds? We really recommend you use the laser flat. No worries, I'm going to be sitting this on top of an object, which you'll see here in a second. So I'm going to click on Continue anyway. And at this point, it has sent the file to the laser. Even though it shows processing status and cancel, don't press that button. I did it a few minutes ago and I started to engrave my table here. So now what I will do is unplug the USB cable, take the laser and the power station without turning it off, outside where I want to engrave, sit it on the object, then press the button to start the engraving. I really don't recommend you guys do this. The better thing is to have all this set up out here with a laptop, but I don't have one right now. So just don't follow exactly what I'm doing. All right, with the laser placed right where I want it, all you do now is press your button. As I'm standing out here watching the laser run, it is very nice that the protective plastic cone fully encases and covers the laser beam. So my eyes are protected. Anyone else who may be around here, their eyes will also be protected. The fan inside is great for keeping the smoke from accumulating inside and making the laser lose power. But obviously there's no exhaust port, and you want to be careful wherever you run this, knowing that the fumes will just be blown out of the cone. Otherwise, it's just as easy as let it sit there and do its job. But as you can tell, you definitely would not want to hold this by hand on an object when you're engraving it for 11 minutes and 50 seconds. So definitely understandable why the software prompted me and said, hold up, you probably should use the laser flat functionality. But to show you guys this use case, this is what I decided to come up with. Another thing I'm sure you're wondering, and since I have a power station that will show me, this laser is only using about 23 watts of power. So it would run a very long time like this from that portable power station in this operation. Very cool. Super energy efficient, I guess, right? There we go, guys. 11 minutes, 50 seconds later, we got ourselves a little disclaimer here that this is only to be used for the new Samcraft workshop build. Yep, maybe that's a future things coming down the pike, right? All right, to answer the question that may be in your head or people really want to know, in my opinion, who do I think is a good customer or who is the Lumos made for? I would say anyone doing a side hustle business, anyone who's looking to take a laser to a craft show or an event, needs something that is portable but also safe to run, wants something that has the capability of doing a wide range of products and projects, but is also looking for something that's not going to absolutely obliterate your bank account. I think in total throughout the testing and filming for this video, as well as previous uses of the machine to get to know it, I probably have around 100 to 150 hours of engraving on this machine. Throughout this whole time, I've not had any issues, I've not had any hiccups, I've not had any problems. The software has worked great, the laser has worked great, and I have not had any technical problems at all. The things that I really like about the Lumos is its small form factor, because I was able to run and film all of this in my home office at my desk, so that is cool. But I really like the metal engraving. The fact that the software and the laser together make it really, really easy to test, identify colors, and then repeat and run. I like the rotary engraving because, yep, again, that was the first time I actually did one. It was a piece of cake. I didn't ruin a tumbler, which was a bonus for me as a beginner. And then I really like the sliding table for larger objects, rotary uses, and just for further functionality to break outside of what may be a smaller engraving size for some people. That table allows you to really bust out of that constraint, and that's really cool. If you want to check out the Lumos, there's a link to it down below in the video description. You'll be able to see its current offerings, tech specs, pricing, and the accessories that I talked about, as well as anything new WeCreat has added since I've posted this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them for me down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.